Green Bay takes on Yale. 3 straight days with 3 bangers we're leading off the video with. Wow. Man, I'm looking forward to this game. 12:30 Eastern tip-off. Yale is minus 16. Total's 153.5. We're 3-0 in our last 3 extra daily picks on my premium page. 74% in our last 19 in that same package. The Yale Bulldogs are 3-1 on the year. Green Bay just 1-4. And the Phoenix, they're allowing nearly 80 points a game. They're in the bottom 5 in the country in defensive turnovers. And they're facing a Yale squad who really doesn't turn it over much on offense themselves. They're averaging nearly 90 points a night. And when it comes to the Bulldogs, they are currently the best 3-point shooting team in college basketball. Yale's drilling 47% of their long balls as a program. Nick Townsend, he's averaging 18 points a game, 52% from downtown. And Riley Fox, he's second on the roster in scoring, 55% from three-land for him, still perfect from the stripe as well. Yale with overs in all 4 of their contests this season, overs against the likes of Rhode Island, Quinnipiac, and Navy. I like Yale minus 16, over 153.5. Utah State taking on Tulane, 1 o'clock East. Utah State's minus 11.5. Total is 154 and a hook. Utah State's 4-0 in the year, doing a great job getting to the basket. The Aggies are making 51% of their attempts from the field, 87 points per contest. MJ Collins is averaging 16 points a game, 45% from downtown. And Colby King's averaging double-digit points a game himself, 50% from three-land. They're facing a Tulane squad who's had all kinds of difficulties guarding the 3-ball. Their opponents are drilling over 41% of their 3-pointers against them. When it comes to the total, Tulane saw overs against Texas State and Samford. I like Utah State minus 11.5, over 154 and a hook. South Carolina, Butler, 2 o'clock East. Butler's minus 2.5, totals 153 and a hook. And I'll tell you what, in this matchup, both schools with some real good stuff on defense. It's Butler who's been tough against the deep ball, actually limiting opposing shooters to just 28% from three-land. Meanwhile, the Gamecocks on the other side, well, they've been tough against the 3-ball themselves. They're allowing just 4 made 3-pointers a game on average. Now, total-wise, Butler saw unders against Southern Indiana and IU Indy. And when it comes to selecting a winner in this one, this game's being featured as today's extra daily pick on my premium page. But as far as making a free play is concerned, I like the under 153.5. Campbell, UT Arlington, 3 o'clock East. Texas Arlington's minus 1.5. Total is 153 and a hook. The Mavericks are 4-1 on the year. Campbell just 2-3. And the Campbells are making just 29% of their 3-pointers. Bottom 5 in assists per game. All kinds of problems on the offensive end of the floor. And they're facing a Texas Arlington squad who's definitely been real tough to score points against. They're giving up just 60 points a game, top 10 in the country in defensive boards. When it comes to guarding the 3-ball, well, the Mavs are limiting opposing teams to just 22% shooting from long range. Mavs with unders against Missouri State and New Mexico. I like Texas Arlington minus 2, under 153.5. All right, next matchup, Davidson taking on Boston College, 3:30 Eastern start. BC's minus 1.5. Total is 136 and a hook. Now, Boston College suffered losses this year to the likes of Florida Atlantic and Central Connecticut State. When it comes to shooting the basketball, these guys are making just 24% of their 3-pointers. Bottom 35 in the country in free throws made. And they're facing a Davidson team who's holding opposing squads to just 68 points a game, 40% from the field. Now, total-wise, BC with unders in 3 out of their last 4. Unders against the likes of Hampton and Citadel. I like Davidson plus 1.5, under 136 and a hook. Wisconsin, BYU, 4 o'clock East. BYU's minus 5.5, totals 161 and a hook. The Cougs are 4-0 on the year, averaging 85 points a game. And aside from making nearly 50% of their field goals, well, they rarely turn the ball over. BYU actually ranks in the top 5 in the country in fewest offensive turnovers. AJ Devanza, he's averaging 20 points a game, 57% from the field. Davis and Baker are drilling 50% of their three-pointers combined. They're facing a Wisconsin team who failed to cover in 2 out of their last 3. Failures to cover against the likes of SIU Edwardsville and Northern Illinois. When it comes to the total, the Badgers saw overs in all of their contests except one. I like BYU minus 5.5, over 151 and a hook. All right, next game, Virginia, Northwestern, 5 o'clock East. Virginia's minus 4.5. Total is 146 and a hook. And I tell you what, both squads are 4-0 on the year, doing some great stuff on defense. The Cavaliers are in the top 25 in defensive field goal percentage, top 3 in the nation in blocks. Meanwhile, Northwestern on the other side, well, they're limiting opposing teams to just 36% shooting from the field, 29% from three-land. Cats with unders against Boston U and Mercyhurst. Virginia with unders in 3 out of their last 4. I like the under, 146.5. Iona, Akron, 5:30 East. Akron's minus 11.5. Totals 171 and a hook. The Zips are 3-1 on the year. Iona's 4-0 themselves. The Gales are actually in the top 10 in the country in points per game. They're making over 40% of their attempts from three-land. CJ Anthony is making 54% of his deep balls, 15.5 points a game. And Toby Harris is still perfect from the foul line, 57% from outside the arc. They're facing an Akron squad who's allowing 72 points a game, struggling against the deep ball. Their opponents are drilling nearly 11 three-pointers a game against them. Now, total-wise, the Zips saw overs in all of their qualifying ball games. Iona with overs in 3 out of their last 4. Give me Iona plus 11.5, over 171 and a hook. All right, next matchup, not on our big screen, but it's going to be SIU Edwardsville taking on Air Force. 6 o'clock Eastern start. SIU's minus 2.5. Total is 132 and a hook. Now, Edwardsville is 3-2 on the year. Air Force just 1-4. The Falcons are averaging only 63 points a game on offense, 57% from the foul line. And it should come as no real surprise. Air Force is currently in the bottom 15 in field goals made per game. They're facing an Edwardsville club who gives up just 65 points a game on defense, top 30 in defensive field goal percentage. SIU with unders in all of their contests except one. Air Force games went 4-1 to the under in their last 5. Give me SIU Edwardsville minus 2.5, under 132 and a hook. Louisville, Cincinnati, 6:30 Eastern start. Louisville's minus 8.5. Totals 162 and a hook. Both squads are 4-0 on the year, doing some great stuff on defense. The Cards are limiting opposing teams to just 38% shooting from the field. Cincinnati's in the top 25 in defensive field goal percentage themselves. And when it comes to the total, the Bearcats with unders in their last 3 straight. Unders against the likes of Mount St. Mary's, Dayton, and Georgia State. I like the under, 162.5. All right, West Virginia, Clemson, 6:30 East. Clemson's minus 3.5. Totals 134 and a hook. And this is another one where both teams have been dominant on the defensive end of the floor. Going to be a battle of wills here today. Clemson, they're in the top 15 in fewest points allowed, limiting opposing shooters to just 35% from the field. Meanwhile, West Virginia is in the top 10 in fewest field goals allowed per game. Mountaineers with unders in all of their contests except one. Clemson with unders against Northern Alabama, Morehead State, and New Hampshire. When it comes to selecting a winner in this one, this game's being featured as today's Chairman Tier Package pick on my premium page. But as far as making a free play is concerned, I like the under, 134.5. All right, next matchup, Memphis, Wake Forest, 7 o'clock East. Wake Forest is minus 2.5. Totals 158 and a hook. Wake Forest is 3-2 on the year. Memphis just 1-3. The Tigers allow over 81 points per contest, 309th in defensive field goal percentage. They're facing a Wake Forest team who's scoring nearly 90 points a night themselves. Juke Harris, he's averaging over 22.5 points per contest, 40% from three land. And Nate Calmese drills 42% of his attempts from outside the perimeter, perfect from the foul line. Deeks with overs in their last three straight. Memphis with overs in 2 out of their last 3. I like Wake Forest minus 2.5, over 158 and a hook. All right, next matchup, Mississippi State taking on New Mexico. That's going to be a 7 o'clock Eastern start. I do not see it on the big screen. It should be up there. That's a pretty decent game there. Mississippi State, New Mexico. Not up there. 7 o'clock Eastern start. Mississippi State's -7, totals 154.5. The Bulldogs are just 2-2 on the year. New Mexico is 3-2 themselves. The Lobos allow just 67 points a game, playing some pretty tough defense. 39% from the field. They're holding their opponents to. And listen, they're facing a Mississippi State squad who failed to cover in all 4 of their contests this season. They have not garnered a successful cover yet. You know, we're talking about failures to cover against the likes of Southeast Louisiana and North Alabama. And ironically, they saw unders in both of those games I just mentioned. New Mexico with unders against UT Arlington and East Texas A&M. I like New Mexico +7, under 154.5. All right, next matchup, South Alabama taking on UAB. That's going to be a 7:30 Eastern start, and it's UAB who's -7.5, totals 150 and a hook. Now, UAB's 3-2 on the year. South Alabama 6-0. Jaguars have been catapulted by some real good defensive play. Just 64 points a game they're allowing, 38% from the field. They're also doing a nice job staying out of foul trouble. They're in the top 10 in fewest free throws allowed. And they're facing a UAB squad who failed to cover against Alabama State and NC State. When it comes to shooting the long ball, well, they've been pretty bad at it. The Blazers are making only 25% of their three-pointers. UAB with unders in their last 2 qualifying ball games. South Alabama with unders against Central Michigan and Toledo. I like South Alabama +7.5, under 150 and a hook. All right, next game, Manhattan taking on Texas A&M. That'll be an 8 o'clock Eastern start. Texas A&M's -23, totals 165.5. Now, the Aggies are 3-2 on the year. Manhattan 3-2 themselves. And, well, the Jaspers have had little problems getting on the scoreboard. They're averaging 85 points a game, top 15 in the country in free throws made. Devin Dinkins leads the team in scoring, 87% from the foul line. And Terrence Jones, he's knocking down 52% of his 3 balls, double-digit points a game. And they're squaring off against an A&M squad who failed to cover in their last 3 straight, allowing nearly 80 points a game. When it comes to guarding the deep ball, well, their opponents are making nearly 41% of their three-pointers against them. Aggies with overs in 3 out of their last 5. Overs against the likes of Montana, Texas Southern, and Northwestern State. I like Manhattan +23, over 165.5. All right, next game, Georgia taking on Xavier, 9 o'clock East. Georgia's -9, totals 163.5. The Bulldogs are 5-0 on the year, stifling on defense. Georgia allows just 62 points a game, top 10 in the country in blocks. They're also staying out of foul trouble, and they're holding opposing teams to just 35% from the field. And that's very bad news for a Xavier team who has not shot well at all. The Musketeers are in the bottom 20 in points per game, making just 39% of their field goals. Xavier with overs in their last 3 straight. Georgia with overs in 2 out of their last 3. I like Georgia -9, over 163.5. All right, next game, not listed on the big screen for whatever reason, because it's the biggest game of the night. Purdue taking on Texas Tech, 9:30 Eastern start. Purdue's -4, totals 153.5, and the Boilermakers are 5-0 to start the year, tough on the defensive end of the floor. Purdue's holding opposing shooters to just 39% from the field. They're also doing a nice job staying out of foul trouble. They're giving up just 9 made free throws a game. They're facing a Texas Tech squad who failed to cover in their last 4 straight. Failures to cover against the likes of Milwaukee and Sam Houston. When it comes to the total, both schools with unders in 2 out of their last 3 respectively. I like Purdue -4, under 153.5. All right, next game, another good one. Not listed on the big screen for whatever reason, but this could arguably be the best game of the night as well. Kansas State, Nebraska, 9:30 East. And this is pretty much a coin flip. It's Kansas State who's -1, a very small number there. Total is 172, very large number there. And even though the Wildcats are undefeated on the year, they've definitely had significant problems on defense. They're giving up nearly 80 points a game, bottom 35 in field goals allowed. They're facing a Nebraska team who's scoring 88 points a night themselves, solid shooting the deep ball. Mast and Frager are making over 42% of their three-pointers combined. Jamarcus Lawrence with double-digit points a game, 52% from three-land. Nebraska with overs in 3 out of their last 4. Kansas State with overs in all of their contests themselves. I like Nebraska +1, over 172. All right, next game, it is going to be Southern taking on San Jose State. That'll be a 10 o'clock Eastern start. San Jose State's -5.5, totals 151 and a hook. Now, San Jose State's just 1-3 on the year, allowing 76 points a game on defense. They actually find themselves in the bottom 30 in defensive turnovers, and they rank 282nd in defensive field goal percentage. They're facing a Southern team who's actually done a nice job of scoring points, shooting nearly 51% from the field. Michael Jacobs, he's averaging 22 points a game, 43% from three-land, and Damari Jones with double-digit points per contest himself, 64% from the field. Southern with overs against Washington, Marquette, and Arkansas. San Jose State with overs against UC Santa Barbara and Utah. Give me Southern +5.5, over 151 and a hook. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our next and final breakdown for the video. Presbyterian taking on UCLA, 10:30 Eastern start. UCLA is -26.5, total is 130. The Bruins failed to cover in all of their contests except one, facing a Presbyterian team who allows just 69 points a game themselves. They've been tough against the 3-ball. Both schools with unders in all of their contests except for one. I like Presbyterian +26.5, under 130. And with that, folks, now it's time for our quick pick recap. I like Yale -16, over 153.5. Utah State -11.5, over 154 and a hook. We're 3-0 in our last 3 extra daily picks on my premium page, 74% in our last 19 in that same package. Give me the under 153.5 in that South Carolina-Butler matchup. Alabama State +4, over 184. Texas Arlington -2, under 153.5. UMASS +3, over 158. Davidson +1.5, under 136 and a hook. BYU -5.5, over 151.5 points. Give me the under 146.5 in that Northwestern Virginia matchup. Iona +11.5, over 171 and a hook. Florida State -15.5, over 175. Lehigh +3, under 146. Stonehill +1.5, under 145. SIU Edwardsville -2.5, under 132 and a hook. Michigan State -31, under 149. Central Connecticut State +15, under 139. Give me the under 162.5 in that Louisville-Cincinnati game. Under 134.5, West Virginia Clemson. Eastern Michigan +3.5, under 154. Appalachian State -2, under 132. Wake Forest -2.5, over 158 and a hook. New Mexico +7, under 154.5. Radford +5, under 149. Marist -15, over 130. East Tennessee State -10, over 147. Florida -35.5, over 160. Kentucky -34, under 156. Duke -39, over 146. Coastal Carolina -2.5, under 138. Old Dominion -12.5, under 157. Penn Quakers +6, under 153. South Carolina Upstate +5.5, over 155. Albany +11, under 136. Charleston Southern +10, under 159. Sacred Heart -6.5, under 151. Maryland Eastern Shore +3.5, under 128. South Alabama +7.5, under 151. Northern Colorado +4, over 157. Austin Peay +8.5, under 148. St. Louis -20, over 165. Arkansas -29, over 161. South Alabama +7.5, under 150 and a hook. Manhattan +23, over 165.5. LSU -20, over 164. Northern Illinois +15, over 152. Norfolk State +1, under 134. South Dakota State -12, under 146. Evansville +9, under 138. Texas State -4, over 135. San Diego -6, under 152. UC Davis +16, over 154. Colorado State -18, over 152. SMU -17, over 172. New Mexico State -5.5, under 145. Stephen F. Austin -1.5, over 151. Fresno State -5, over 155. Georgia -9, over 163.5. Grand Canyon -17, under 151. Purdue -4, under 153.5. Nebraska -1.5, over 172. Sacramento State +22, over 156. Southern +5.5, over 151 and a hook. Grambling +12.5, over 142. Montana State -2, over 140. Seattle +11.5, over 148. Santa Clara -19, over 140.5. Portland -5, under 161. And give me Presbyterian +26.5, under 130. And with that, folks, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my premium page. And if you do end up getting a membership here today, you're going to get access to that package every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships during that time frame, absolutely free. Going to be included with your membership. But most importantly, folks, got to thank you for joining me right here on the free video. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that, folks, happy Friday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my premium page.